p.m. This is the regular meeting for the Honey Grove City Council. And tonight we have Mr. Cunningham present, Mr. Hall, Ms. Massey, Ms. Lane, and Mr. Peavy is absent tonight. With that, I will ask Mr. Cunningham if he will lead us in the invocation.
Father, we do come to you tonight. Thank you for this opportunity that we have as a council and as citizens together here, Lord, tonight, and to make here and to make decisions concerning our town. And we pray that we might have the wisdom that you would give to us, the knowledge and the understanding and the wisdom to be about that business. And Lord, we pray for our city, and we pray for our county and our state, Lord, our nation, Lord, the changes that we're going through. We just pray for your guidance and your direction. May we always be considerate, Lord, of what you have us to do. Be with our sick and our needy here in our town. We'll ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. This time we'll move to public forum. Citizens may speak on any item during the public forum section of the meeting or when the item is called for discussion by the mayor. Speakers are given 3 minutes per speaker. Citizens wishing to address the council on non-agenda items may do so with the 3-minute time limit per speaker. Consistent with the Texas Open Meeting Act, the council members cannot discuss non-agenda items. All speakers will maintain proper decorum when presenting and while in council chamber. Threats, personal insults, vulgar, profane language are out of order and may result in forfeiture of remaining time and possible removal from the meeting. At this point, I'm going to move to the list that I have, and tonight we have Mr. Jeffrey Keller, who is here from Linebarger Law Firm, who represents us with our sales tax and those kinds of things. Thank you for coming and being here with us.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We also have Samantha Cathy, who is here with him.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. My name is Jeff Keller, and on behalf of the Linebarger Law Firm, it's our pleasure to get to represent you. Just a little bit about myself. I've never been able to appear before you. I am a new face to Linebarger. I just came aboard about a year ago. Prior to that, I was a prosecutor in Dallas for most of my career. I was also in the Texas Army National Guard and a lawyer in the Army Reserve. And so it's my honor now to work with Linebarger, and together with Ms. Cathy, we represent the city of Honey Grove as well as the school district in the county. Let me start with some great news. The #1 delinquent tax account for the city, we'll flip with me to the first page of this report, is the property that the Dollar General sits upon. I'm happy to report we had filed suit in that case, and for lack of a better word, the property, the owner of the property that sits on, in essence, a shell corporation. Okay. So Ms. Cathy and I were kind of going around and around trying to get the suit served on the right people. Well, we with our knocking on the door at Dollar General, corporate, and all the things, we're able to ruffle enough feathers that we have received an email as of last week. They've already made their first payment, which paid off the back taxes for 2022. We expect payment for 2023's back taxes paid this month by the end of February, and then the 2024 taxes will be paid in March. So I'm very happy to report that not only are they the #1 delinquent taxpayer for the city, but also for the school district and within the top 5 for the county. So this is a significant portion of the delinquent tax revenues that are to the city, and this is very hot off the presses information. So happy to do that information.
Absolutely.
Now, my understanding, Mr. Mayor and Council, in speaking with Jamie, we had delivered her this report back in December. And I think maybe there was just some questions about kind of how our function works. And so with the remainder of my time, rather than kind of delve into the facts of the report, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it is that we do and how we try to help us. So So as members of the city, as you well know, as property owners, every year you get a tax bill, right? And that tax bill is made up of taxing entities. And we represent those taxing entities. And most people, when they get that tax bill, they pay their taxes, right? It's just as a citizen, it's what you do, right? And when you look at that tax bill, you can see that there's taxes for the county, there's taxes for the school, and there's taxes for the city, right? Well, what happens is most taxpayers pay them. There's a small subset, a margin that do not. Okay? And when that happens, when that transpires, somebody doesn't pay their taxes. There's a tax lien that gets put in place every year on January 1st. Okay? That's January 1st of year one. And so you don't get your tax bill for that year until October. Right? And then you have until January 31st of year two to pay that tax bill on time. Now, if you don't pay that tax bill by January 31st of year two, you have now become a delinquent taxpayer. And the county will continue to try to collect those taxes until July 1st of year two, which at that point it is turned over to your delinquent tax attorneys. So we are now roughly 18 months removed from when that tax lien was put in place. Now, when it comes to us, it comes to Sam, we will then start a mail campaign, a phone campaign, to try to get those delinquent taxes paid. It's not, it costs money to file suit, and we don't want to burden the delinquent taxpayer with more costs if we don't have to. So a lot of times with our mail campaign, it starts with an additional letter that goes like this. Hey, we recognize this is probably an oversight, but you got taxes that are paid, and we need to try to get those paid. So if you would please pay those paid. Well, over the course of the next 12 months, we continue to mail those letters in severity, to which the final letter, the 8th letter of the year, basically says, look, you got to pay these for the next 30 days, or we're going to file suit and come take the property. Right? Now, once we do file a suit in a case, and we can, of course, file a suit anytime we belong there, but once we do file a suit, we have to do title research, we have to ensure that we have all the appropriate defendants who have been articulated or included in that suit, and may have an interest in that property. And so that time frame, that's in essence why it can take 2 years, 3 years before we see a resolution in these cases. Now, we don't want to take people's property. It's not the business that we're in. We want to get the tax revenues in so that way you can pay your police officers, you can pay for your services, and all the things that the city needs to do, right? Our job is trying to get the tax dollars in so you can continue on with your budget and make all the wheels turn, right? Unfortunately, in some circumstances, we do have to take properties to a foreclosure sale. And the purpose of that is to try to get a new taxpayer to take over ownership of that property, and we can get it back to the tax rolls and continue to have a functioning property that is paying into your tax rates. I know that was a lot of words. Very quickly, Mr. Mayor and Council, any questions that you may have, I'm happy to answer. I'll stay around a little bit with Sam if anybody has any questions otherwise. But with that, I would open myself up to any questions.
We appreciate your coming, and the news with the Dollar General is good news for us. And we always are happy to see the representatives when they come with a check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We
Yeah, I wouldn't leave with that.
Thank you. and you can feel free to leave when you want to leave, or you can stay as long as you want to.
Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you again for coming. Brings us to item 5, the consent items, the minutes from the previous meeting, the liabilities and disbursements, the city secretary report, the police department report, the utility department report, and the fire department report. And unless there are any questions about or comments from any one of these items, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion from Mr. Cunningham to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Lane. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item 6 are comments from the mayor are the council presentation information only. These are not action items. If there's anything from the council, otherwise we will move on to old business. A is the maintenance of the out-of-service fire hydrants, and you have in your packet some information from Mr. Newland, Mr. Jay Newland, who has suggested work on a couple of fire hydrants here in town. Mr. Massey provided this for us for our packet, I believe. And you'll notice there's two that particularly that Mr. Newland, I guess he identified these, Charles, or did you? Did Mr. Newland identify these, or did you? Okay. These are two. One is located up at 1406 West Market Street. That's a fire hydrant that's, I think, across from that Baptist church up there. There happens to be another one just west of that. Is that one functional as well?
Yes.
Okay. So this one is up across from the Baptist church on West Market. The other is at 14th and Chestnut, up off 14th Street. These are the charges that he would do for the full, I believe, a full restoration of these two fire hydrants. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Massey?
I think we'll buy the parts and repair myself.
Discussion, comments?
What is the cost to buy a brand new fire hydrant?
4,200.
Other questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for stepping up to do that, because I mean that, I know it can sound like nickel and diming, but those nickel and dimes add up, and thank you.
Are there other questions or comments on this item? Any action on this item? Okay, we will put this aside. That brings us to item B, maintenance bid for City Hall. You have the maintenance bid from Clear Cut Choice. Did we get others?
No, we had not received. I know Charles has reached out to several people, and no one else has returned an itemized bid. And Mr. Saba was the only one who did.
So looking at this estimate, it looks like in line item 1, the labor material, they have purchase, deliver, and staging materials and equipment. But then in line item 2, it's the same thing. And then they also in line item 1, clean and haul off materials and debris. And then in line item 4, it's the same thing. So it looks like a double dip.
I don't know exactly what each item's for. I don't know if it's the cleanup of the windows or cleanup of the doors, because we told them both. He didn't specify.
And I'm just concerned that it's more cosmetic. I mean, it's not, I think if we have water damage, we got that water coming in from the roof or
It's
something.
coming in because the facial up at the top needs to be replaced and repaired. That's when we talked to Mr. Itel. He said that was the problem many years ago when he came in to fix one minor issue. And he said it's not your roof, it's the facial up at the top that's causing it to leak and come in the side of the building and the windows.
So what's the issue with the ceiling and the top?
It's because that's where it is. It's at the very top. It's coming in through the, yeah, and settling there.
Yeah, I think we need to get something done about it, but I think we just need to, we need to keep putting it out there and see if we can get any more bids, because.
Okay. You want some more bids?
Lori said that she would get it posted on the community page
Okay,
to see if we can get more
More
people
bids.
to give us bids.
okay.
Just to replace the fascia is what we're needing.
That's what he said, but he said when he got back into town, he would look at it and make sure.
All right. Thank you. Building inspection ordinance. Mr. Hamilton, are we ready with that ordinance?
No, I do not believe we are.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Building inspector contract, and you have the material from the last, from the workshop. This is the standard professional services agreement that we have with Bureau Veritas. We've used this organization with our planning and development. We have representatives that come periodically to work with builders or developers who are here to work on projects and who help us to be sure that they are doing everything they're supposed to. We've had this contract basically since 2019. We have never used this group for inspections because we've always been able to find a local person who was here. When I came, there was one, and then he left, and we found another. And then more recently, we found someone from Bonham who was willing to come and do it for us, but he has moved to a different job and actually decided that he would not continue to do it. The cost for us with this organization is a little bit more than it was for the previous individual, but this is the contract that we have, the agreement that we have that potentially.
I think if we go with this agreement, that we need to put a timeline on it, just kind of a probationary period to look at it and see how it's going, and not just say this is who we're sticking with now. I think if we put like a 2-month period on it and just, okay, let's hear from the citizens how it's going and businesses, and go from there. I mean, this is something that I think we have to do, but I think to put it on a trial run and say, hey, let's see how it's going, and let's look at it again in 2 months and see if we want to continue with it or not.
But if we've had this contract with this company since 2019 and we've never used them, and it doesn't cost us anything unless we use them, why can't we re-sign the contract? And if we are able to find an inspector that is cheaper, that is willing to come out and do these things, can we not do that?
You don't have to re-sign the contract. It stays in effect until we no longer use them.
So if I was to find an inspector that would look at it and hand it off to the city, would that be valid? Or
I think the main thing is that we need, whatever we do, we need the same contractor. If we decide that we find an individual who will come to do this for us, essentially that should be our contractor, our inspector.
But have we not been doing that for years since we've been under this contract with
Yeah.
them since 2019, but had a different inspector? So what is the difference?
No, I don't mean have a different. We've had the same inspector whenever we've had them. They've been here.
But he
Mark
wasn't-
Posey was here.
Right, but he wasn't through this company, but we had
No.
this contract.
Yeah, we had the contract, but we were using him to work on the map for the city, and we were using him to come and to help us with planning and development. He came for planning meetings with individuals who were working on projects here. But we've had this, the individual who did our inspections did all inspections when that was happening. So since I've been here, we've had 3 different individuals. They worked as long as they were willing to work, and then when they moved on, we found somebody that was either recommended to us and they were willing to come. That was like with Mark. Mark was willing to come, and then he is not. So,
Right, so
yeah.
what I'm saying is, are we able to stick with this for now since we don't
Yeah.
have a current
Sure,
inspector?
absolutely.
But if one does come up and say they want to do
Yeah.
the inspections, then we can go with them.
well, I had one that was willing, but it was all the paperwork and stuff tied to it. He was willing to come out and do the inspection and say, this is good, but it came more to all these reports are going to need to be filed and stuff like that. It's like, he wasn't willing to do it at the price that we were willing to do it at. It was more of, he was willing to come out and look at it and give it the thumbs up or the thumbs down, but not the total of filling out all the reports and stuff like that I think was was asked. But, I mean, I would be open to
Looking around.
and if somebody is certified and is able to do inspections and say, hey, that's what we're willing, I mean, that's apparently what we did. That's what we've done in the past. And if that person is certified by the state, go with them, and if not, then we can continue with the way that we were.
Yeah, I think the issue here is that we need an inspector now. And so Bureau Veritas will do that for us. If we come to the place where someone is willing to come and do the work and to meet all the requirements to do that, then there's no reason. We can simply say to the Bureau Veritas, we found somebody locally who will come and do this for us.
Have we ever used them for inspection?
No.
Since we have contract with them?
No,
I
not
used
since
them
I've been here.
recently. I had to. Somebody had to go in and do the solar panels. They sent me all the information. I sent it to Bureau Veritas before 4 p.m. They were out the next day. Inspection was done. They contacted the individual, and I've got a report to go with it.
I just can't help but wonder why we never used them to begin with. If we had the contract with them, why did we use them?
I can't answer that question. I can simply tell you that we just found somebody that was recommended to us when the one that was here when I first came on board, that one recommended the next one. He knew that he did inspections. One that we had first came out of Paris, and he worked in McKinney. He drove through town. He came back through town. And then the next one had moved out west between here and Honey Grove, and he was willing to do it. And then when he could no longer do it, I believe his health failed, Billy Bob Stevens or someone said, Mark Posey and Bono might be willing to do it. And so we went and talked with him. So we just never used them. But if we can just move along with them unless we find somebody else, that will be kind of critical. We had never used them, in my experience, since I've been here.
So is the price that they charge, is that what we charge the person getting the permit?
$76.94 because it's in and out. But mind you, when you're doing that, you have no other revenue coming in for building inspections, and your budget was built on that. So you'll just have to be mindful of it.
So can we get some sort of motion?
I mean, I would make the motion that we go with them, but under a 2-month probation, that we look at it at the end of the 2 months. I mean, we're already
We'll-
going.
We already contracted with them,
You're
We're already contracted.
with
It
them. You don't
doesn't
have
take
to-
a motion.
so we don't have to
But
take any action.
I would like to say, if we're going to use them, let's keep it under the microscope and let's analyze it. Let's not just say, just
So
forget about it, you know?
we don't need a motion, we just use them.
We're just going to continue to use them until
Okay.
somebody finds somebody else to use.
Okay, very good. It works for me. All right, moving to the next item. Ratify change to the zoning ordinance requiring minimum square footage for residential construction. And we do have the ordinance, you have the ordinance in your packet.
It was just sent out this afternoon. I received it and I printed it off for everybody.
Mine's attached to the back of the minutes, I believe.
Here.
Yes.
David, do you mind explaining the ordinance?
Pardon me?
Do you mind explaining the ordinance?
I don't mind that. All right, several months ago, the council voted to have minimum square footage of 800 square feet. So this ordinance attempts to apply that to the zoning ordinance. And added one other detail down there we'll talk about. The very first thing that's talking about the special definitions, accessory building, it's defined, but it's not fleshed out there. In most zoning ordinances, an accessory building cannot be used as a residence. And that is an issue that frequently comes up in cities. Somebody wants to stick a shop or just put something out there temporarily while they're building a house. And cities find it very difficult to go ahead and make that person build that house. So an accessory building is ancillary to something that's already supposed to be there. The council acting as a board of adjustments can always change that if they want to, but there hasn't been application. And those two things there, 34.2.2, and then at the bottom of that, you see there's another reference, and that's at 2371. That's the definition for accessory buildings and non-residential, and that's left alone. That's just put in there so if somebody reads the ordinance, they'll know there's a difference between accessory buildings residential and accessory buildings in non-residential areas. The next section there is, this is what's added, it's called an accessory dwelling unit. Some of us that are a little bit more mature in age know those as mother-in-law units. People who build a structure that's intended from the start to be occupied by individuals. And so with the tiny home, things on wheels, things you can move in, what this is an attempt to do is say, hey, you can do that. It's also got to have 800 square feet, but you got to have a building permit back there. And if you leave the wheels on it, then for purposes of Honey Grove, we will treat that as a camper trailer. So somebody can do it, they just got to have that minimum square footage anywhere they go, okay? The next two pages kind of changes. The sections 8 and 9 of our zoning ordinance deal with single family 1, single family 2, 8 and 4. Those sections are both addressing those residential areas. And so that's an attempt to add the minimum square footage, and it says here, it's on the ground floor. The square footage has to be on the ground floor, so if somebody wanted to come in and build something that had 200 square foot on the ground, we could say no, it's gotta have that as a foundation. So that changes both of those, and it does not include, it's the porch, a carport, or a deck. So it's livable square floor area in all the definitions. And then that next one there, permitted uses. Right now, that accessory dwelling unit would not be a permitted use anywhere in the zoning ordinance because that definition's not in there. So this will be added to the permitted uses there, saying you can build these things if you want to, but here are the minimum specs for it. So the minimum specs will be 800 square feet, must have a building permit. You can't transfer it. Like if somebody bought one of those buildings and they wanted to make it a timeshare or a condo or an Airbnb in the back, they would have to get permission from the city before they could do that. They can't subdivide it and sell that off. Okay? And that's basically it.
Okay.
I think that covers every area that we'd say. I think the goal was to have nothing less than 800 square feet anywhere, livable space, and I think that covers all those definitions that have not possible.
Does that affect the ones that are already like your mother-in-law suites? Is that even if they get repairs on them, that
if they can repair it, but if the improvement goes beyond 50%, the usual is you may have to do that. But since it's already there on the foundation, probably not. Probably can't. Now, there may have some problems with this ordinance if they wanted to sell that off, if they wanted to make it a condo or something like that. But the ones that are already in place, it's like any other thing. You can't impact that's already there. You can hope to change the future.
Questions? Comments?
I do have a question. We have an ordinance that goes against with somebody living in their RVs that is parked, and you just said that it's going to be treated like an RV?
That's so you can regulate it. If
Okay.
somebody pulls something back in there with wheels on it,
Uh-huh.
and they want to claim, oh, this is one of y'all's accessory dwelling units, we go, well, no, it's got tires on it, it's parked right there. It isn't, and that's the reason that
Okay.
definition's in there.
Thank you.
and that's not grandfathered in.
Pardon me?
That's not grandfathered in. I mean,
No,
Okay.
it's got wheels on it, you can move it. If it's already parked there and they got it staked down, they don't don't have to get a permit for it, but as long as they're living on that chassis and it's movable, I think they may have an issue if the city decides to get out.
Action on this, discussion. You need more time with it? No? Do I have a motion?
A motion that we accept the zoning ordinance as presented.
As amended? Okay, thank you.
As presented.
As presented. We have a second. We have a second from Ms. Massey. Motion from Ms. Lane, a second from Ms. Massey. All in favor? Ms. Lane, Ms. Massey, Mr. Cunningham, those opposed?
It's an ordinance.
Mr. Hall opposes. Motion carries 3-1. Brings us down to the sign ordinance that we discussed, and you have a copy of the sign ordinance. There was concern that was expressed about the number of, especially the number of signs that are posted for businesses around town when they're put out at every crossroad and put on every telephone pole. The concern was that we have those that are just scattered all over town. And so what we've tried to do with this ordinance is to address that and to try to have some control over the where these things are posted and have the numbers of those that are posted. And so the ordinance covers a number of different things. The only thing that I really questioned in here had to do with garage sales. And it appeared to me that the ordinance as being stated was that the person, if they were having a garage sale, could have a particular size garage sale sign on their property. My question really had to do with the issue for folks who do not live on a main road. If they live in on a side road and they're wanting direction people, that might be a problem. It would not be a problem well, it might be for Mr. Hall. He might want to direct him from Main Street up to his house. It wouldn't be a problem for me because I live on Main Street, but for someone who lives somewhere else. So that was the only thing I questioned.
I think with this ordinance, you just gotta use common sense with it. I mean, I don't think we want our city littered with the signs that are all over the place. But as much as I am against a lot of the ordinance, I think this one is one where I'm just, it really irritates me. You look in the ditches and it's just, you see an internet sign or a 360 broadband sign. I mean, it's just, I actually was driving out on 82 the other day and I see one of the signs fly out of somebody's truck. It's like really, it's just, yeah, not the look I want. But yeah, I think there's some stuff in here like the garage sale signs and stuff like that, but I think our police chief and our police know kind of what we're looking for in this. So.
Was your concern that the garage sale people can't post with just one sign anywhere in the city, or you want to let them post it in your right of way?
It may not be a concern for anybody else, and it's not really a concern for me. It depends on how you interpret that. I think if we say they have to post it on their property, in their driveway, it limits pretty much those folks in terms of getting their word out a lot of times for some individuals, yeah, where they live.
They can put it on any private property owner they can get permission to. But the problem is once you started making exceptions for people to tag garage sales on telephone poles and put garage sales in the right of way, you just left it up to absolute discretion, So that's really it's in there.
On page 6, section 12A. Can you explain that?
Oh, if if businesses want something on their, sign, instead of it just being a general advertising thing, you know, if I own A to Z, rentals, then I can have an A to Z rental sign on my business property. But renting or allowing other people, it just clutters things up. Now, you know, political signs are an exception if I want to have 3 or 4 different candidates in my yard. But this says, if you're going to have one of these temporary signs at your business place, and remember, it's limited to those kind of signs you described. We're talking about the wire signs and the ones that you tie down, those temporary signs. You can have one of those, it's got to be connected to the business, and that's it.
So that doesn't have anything to do with a residence.
No,
It has on your graduation signs. So
No.
if you have a child of the week or student of the week or whatever, that's totally fine.
that specifically says that's okay. If you want to advertise your church in the front yard, we'll do it. If you got a guy that's graduating from the senior class this year, you stick that in the ground too. Yeah, I'll be proud of that. Absolutely.
Any other concerns? Has Mr. Hamilton captured what our concerns were, what your concerns were, basically? And I'm fine with the garage sale thing. I'm one of those people that hates to see garage sale signs that are sitting out and left out forever and ever and ever, and often pick them up myself. And so if the council is comfortable with that, I am too. So, are you ready to take action on this ordinance? Yes, no?
I motion that we accept the sign ordinance as presented.
Okay. Ms. Lane has made a motion to accept the ordinance as presented. Do we have a second? We have a second from Mr. Hall. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. We are down to G, quotes from the website design companies. They were able to, staff was able to get a couple of recommendations. They got recommendations from Jeff, who has typically done our web work and helped us with our technology. And they made contact. They got the names of more than one or two, but they only had 2 who really responded to their request and actually had FaceTime with them to go over the information. Basically, went over with them all of the information they got, and so they have presented this information to you to look at. The first one, just to give you kind of a summary, the first one is that you have is revised. Both of them, basically, if you look at both of them, they have startup fees, they have development fees, and then they have startup fees and annual fees. The first one, in summary, looks like they have these fees to start out with, and then there are other kinds of features that they offer, but they also charge you for those as you add those features. Both were, folks found, were user-friendly, which has been problematic for our website up to now. And so those were things that they found. This one, first one was revised, was cheaper to begin with, but in the long run, you were paying for items along the way as you picked up features. The second one that was presented was called Website Executive Summary. It's a little more expensive, but if you look at the material that you're given, you'll find that there's a whole host of features that are built into the website design. And it's into that particular second one. I think it's about 2, 3, 4, 5. at the 7th page over. And some of these items, of course, we don't particularly need at the moment, but as we go down the road, there are those kinds of things that we would not have to pay for in addition to our cost and our annual fee.
Online payments, those are going to be with we have a link that we post on there. So they use our information with the company we use, and then they provide it.
Regardless of which one.
Either one will do it. The only difference basically between them is the price, but the one he was speaking to, the first two columns are included, all of those features, where you have to pay for each of those individual features on the other one, which is $2,000 a piece. So they have a nice feature where the calendar, and they have push notifications that if we put something on the calendar, people can sign up to have those notifications sent to them either by text or email. And then they have a Google Doc fillable forms that we can use where we can put them on the website. They fill them out, they send them to us via email. Those features are extra with Revise.
What's your recommendation, Jamie?
Either one of them is going to design a very user-friendly. It's just with the city growing, these features that they offer, we could start using them if we need them. Where the other one, we'll just have to do an additional cost. It'll be additional fee for annual fee every year. So either one would be fine.
You recommended?
That's the one I would like, yes.
Our website is needed work, clearly, so. And obviously what we're hoping to do, and with either of these systems, I think we're hoping to get our ordinances online so that individuals can find ordinances if they're looking for a particular ordinance and other kinds of information as well.
Hello, Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No, I'll do it later. You just left a voicemail.
It's okay, it's a spam call.
Sorry. So what is your pleasure?
This is something that maybe we could look at the next workshop and actually go to some of these websites that they actually do, check it out before we make this commitment.
I think so, just more research.
Yeah.
On our end.
I know we need it, but I want to make sure we make the right choice for sure.
Okay, we'll put this aside and look at it. All right, brings us to new business. Resignation of the Mayor Pro Tem, Terry Parker.
That's me. That's you. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. I've got some health issues most of you know about. I've got some more coming up that looks like they're gonna have to go in and redo some stuff. Put some a plate in, some more stuff. So we're trying to avoid that, but I think it's really time for me to kind of move on down the road. Not that I'm going to be absent from the city, because I've often told people that when I came into this spot in 1993 or 94, my first go around of it, I stayed one term, and I hold to the same statement that I made then that I made when I came back on board. I don't remember how long ago, at least 12 years ago, this go around. that, and the people that have been hired by the city that I've had the privilege to set in and bring them on board, they always know my basic question: will you be willing to take ownership in your job? And that drive from my mindset as a council member that this is my town, and I'm going to treat it like that. And whether I'm on the board or whether I'm not, this is still my town, and I'm going to treat it that way. And you can rest assured of that, unless it just always be that way. And I appreciate y'all's diligence, your backing. Continue to do so. Please do, because the town needs you. Okay, we need to come together. We need to thrive together because it's coming. The city's going to be changing. The town's going to be changing, and it may come fast, and it may, I don't know. But not that I don't want to be a part of it, because I still will be on the outsides and skirts of it. But I've just got issues. My wife's got issues, health issues, and we just got to kind of sit back and relax. I took a nap. I told the mayor that I took a nap today for the first time in my life in years, and it only lasted about an hour and a half, but I took it, and and that's something that's very, very rare. So, with all that being said, I am going to turn in my resignation as Mayor Pro Tem and as council member, effective immediately. And of course, I can't leave until I have a replacement. Okay, it's against the law. They didn't tell me that 42 years ago when I got on here. Okay, but I have to have a replacement, and so this would be the time for me to.
This would be the time for you to do whatever you want to do.
Whatever I want to do.
Yes, sir.
I like that. They don't give me that option at church because they know I get long-winded sometimes. So my resignation is now immediate, and I want to thank you. And then thank y'all.
Before he says any more at this point, I want to thank Paul for all kinds of things. I've leaned on him a lot. Maybe that's why he's sick and having his issues, is that he's been there as a support, and I've appreciated that a great deal. It is, it's been an honor to work with him and to visit with him over the years, and to work with him as Mayor Pro Tem. I will tell you that I've known Terry Paul all of his life. I knew his sister, who was about 12 years older than he, and his sister was about my age, and his sister had the same experience that I had, in that she ended up having a brother when she was in high school, and I ended up having a brother when I was in high school. So we had a lot in common. I'll also tell you that I've known his family for generations. In fact, some people may know this and some people may not, but we share a great aunt and a great uncle. His great aunt married my great uncle, so we've had ties for a long time. But it's been a pleasure having you, and we appreciate and the city appreciates all that you've done.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve on this board.
Thank you.
Now, the second thing that I need to do is I need to select someone to replace me immediately. Okay?
So you can leave.
So I can leave. I'm going home, get my chair, set my dog, and eat some Mexican food. That's probably what caused this. It wasn't this stuff here. It was all the junk I eat.
Well, we have to have a motion.
You got to have a motion
To accept your resignation.
to accept my resignation.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion.
Do I see a motion?
All right, I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Hall that we accept Mr. Cunningham's resignation. We have a second. We have a second from Ms. Massey. All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Now, the important part is, I'm going to recommend a young man that, I've grown to appreciate. I think he will be a player in the team here. I think he'll be a good asset to the team. And, my head's in the right direction. I got my lawyer sitting here.
So far, so good.
So far, so good, okay?
I don't know, is he your lawyer anymore?
Well, yeah, until I get someone to replace me. My selection and my recommendation to the council immediately goes on to the council with a unanimous vote or a vote of recommendation would be Mr. Stephen Webb. And Stephen, would you stand up? All y'all know Stephen. In fact, he's already signed up to run this next go round, but if the council accepts my recommendation, then he won't have to run.
He will finish Mr. Cunningham's term.
Yeah, he'll finish I got one more. I had one more year. I got one more year.
Yeah.
And hopefully, so to the council.
We'll see if we get a motion.
Okay.
We had a motion.
Can we go into executive session?
Can we go in? We can. Executive session, the city of Honey Grove does not routinely list the items for executive session consideration. However, consistent with the authority cited below, the city may return to executive session as permitted and is needed on agenda items authorized by the Texas government section. Consultation with the attorney, and that's what we're doing, which is consultation with the attorney. It's 551.071. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Have a motion from Ms. Lane to go into executive session. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Massey. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously, and it is 6:52. We'll retire the executive session. We may have to go into one of these other rooms. I don't know if something's still going on back there or not.